Hello, everyone. This is Frank DeFreitas, and welcome to a brand new season of HoloTalk for the 1999-2000 season. This show is for the week of September 13th, 1999, and this is the third season of HoloTalk that we're going into. I'd like to extend a welcome to my regular listeners who are coming back for another season, but I'd also like to send out a special welcome to our new listeners who are listening to HoloTalk for the first time. So if you're a new listener, I'd like to welcome you aboard, and I hope you enjoy the upcoming season. And I'll tell you a little bit about what HoloTalk is about. HoloTalk gives us an opportunity to chat with guests on a regular basis who work with lasers and holograms, and it also gives the listeners an opportunity to sit back and relax and keep in touch with what's happening in the field of lasers and holograms. It's the field that we know and the field that we love, and it's nice to be able to have this opportunity to come into your schools, your homes, and your offices and bring this information to you. So I hope you come back and check out the shows that will be coming up during the season. The season runs from Labor Day to Memorial Day, and then we're off for the summer. And speaking of summers, I hope everyone had a great summer. I had a pretty good summer. We did a lot of exciting things around here in the lab that I'm going to get to in a few minutes, but one of the memories of this summer is the extreme heat that just blanketed the entire northeast part of the country, and Pennsylvania in particular. This county that Allentown is located in, which is Lehigh County, is one of 3 counties in the state where the farmers had to declare 100% crop loss. It was a very, very sad sight to be driving around and seeing the crops. Corn, for instance, only grew about to the height of someone's calf on your leg. I don't even think it would even reach your knees. That's if it grew at all. As you would drive around on the different highways and the turnpike, you would see the cornfields, and there were entire areas where the corn never even sprouted or came up. It was just bald, baked earth. And this went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and the only thing that you could do would be just to sit back, stay in the shade, and hope to survive, which unfortunately there were a number of people who didn't survive this extreme heat. But that's all over now outside the HoloTalk studio. It's a very calm, cool evening, and after I finish this show, I think I'm going to go out, sit out back, and listen to what's left of the crickets for this season as the temperature continues to drop and we move into the fall once again, and give up our summer activities for those activities in the fall and winter, which includes a lot of work indoors, and hopefully for the HoloTalk listeners, back into the lab to begin our experiments with the great field of holography. I kept going back and forth on whether I should increase the quality of the broadcast of HoloTalk. I certainly have the equipment here in the studio to do some very high-quality broadcasting. Of course, anytime that you send out a show which is very high quality, you have to have people who have the capability of receiving that information, which means modems that are at least 28.8 or higher, 56K. And I kept coming back to the picture of this little boy or little girl out somewhere in the middle of America, or maybe southeast, southwest, that, money's a little tight in the house, and the kid's got a computer. It's not a great computer. It may be a computer that maybe his or her uncle gave them for a birthday present, a hand-me-down, and it's got this 14.4 modem attached to it, and there's certainly, if there was going to be a purchase made in that household, it would probably be for sneakers or clothes. It certainly wouldn't be a new modem for the computer. So I see this kid sitting in the bedroom with the computer, and they like holography, they like lasers, and they enjoy listening to the HoloTalk show. And I keep thinking what a shame it would be that if I were to make this show where it would only be available to someone with a 28.8 or a 56K modem, even though that would increase the quality of the show and you would really hear some of the capabilities of the quality equipment here in the studio. All of a sudden they would log on for the show, and the next thing you know, it would say, we're sorry, you can't receive this information, your modem isn't fast enough, and what a shame that would be. So I decided to just keep it at the regular rate that I normally broadcast for the past 2 seasons, which is 8.5 kilobits per second, which allows anyone with a 14.4 modem to pick up the show. And if you're one of those people out there, my friend, my little friend, or friends, there's probably many of you, this is for you, so that you can continue to listen to the show and follow the field of holography. Maybe even start making some holograms on your own, and who knows where that will lead you. So that's the reason why the show is still coming through at the same rate that it's been coming through for the past 2 seasons. It's not anything to do with what we're capable of doing. It's more to do with the fact that we do have some little ones out there that listen to this show, and I think it's very important that if they do like this, that they're able to get the information. Something that's new for all of you, if you happen to have Real Player Plus, which is the 5.0 version or the 4.0 version, or even the new G2 Real Player, you'll be able to put HoloTalk as one of your favorites, sort of like a bookmark or one of the presets that you have on a regular radio. If you have the Plus series of these players, you have the capability of doing that. When you go to a website and you listen to a show, you're able to click on your favorites, and that'll become a button right on your Real Player. This gives you the advantage of not having to log on to the website to listen to the show each week. Say, for instance, you listen to the show on a Tuesday night. Sit back with your cup of coffee or Darjeeling tea and enjoy HoloTalk. Now, you don't need to log on to the website, go to the web page, click on the link, and have Real Player launch. Just get your Real Player up and click on the favorite button. It should say HoloTalk right on the button if you choose it as a favorite, and each week's show will begin to play automatically for you. So that's a little feature that we're going to do that we didn't have for the past 2 seasons. So that sort of might make up for the fact that I didn't increase the quality of the show, but I increased the quality of the delivery on how you can receive it. So a little bit of a trade-off there. Well, I've got a great lineup of guests this season. I'm not going to get into who the guests are. I know last season I sort of made a list of who was going to be on and when they were going to be on, but unfortunately, this is a HoloTalk show, and most of the people who work in the field of holography have businesses, and they travel, and they do different things, and different things come up at the last moment. And even though we did get most of the guests on, they certainly weren't on the same week. I had to do a little bit of a scrambled eggs things there, where I took one person, changed them another week, and changed someone else around. So I'm not going to go into what dates each of the guests and things are going to be on, but I would recommend that you get on the mailing list. And I have the HoloTalk mailing list. If you go to my email page, or maybe I'll even have a link right on the HoloTalk page for you. If you get on the mailing list each week, you'll receive one email, a short email. It's nothing like junk mail that's coming into your email box every day. Your email address never, ever goes out for any other purpose except right on my machine for HoloTalk. And I'll send you an email and let you know, a reminder, because we all forget sometimes, that HoloTalk's coming up this week, and this is the guest, and this is what the topic's going to be, so tune in. I'll give you a little bit of a reminder to come back and listen to the show. So get on the mailing list and see what the shows are going to be each week. You may not have an interest in some of the shows, but some of them might hit a nail right on the head for you as far as interest, so you don't want to miss that. Well, as many of you know, I take the summer off from Memorial Day until Labor Day, especially with the website and holography. And by the way, I will be updating the website on a regular basis. I've got a number of different updates that are going to go on there, so you want to keep coming back as the weeks go on and see some of the new things that go up. But there was still a lot of activity around the lab. The biggest news is that you may remember at the end of last season, we were really trying to get a 35 milliwatt diode together, to run our own design, which means our own driver, power supply, and with a purchased diode. And, we just worked, and when I say we, I'm talking Sam Savage is a friend of mine who's been coming in and working with this. He's from New Jersey, and we've been going back and forth. And I'll tell you something, we just ripped our hair out trying to improve the performance of some of these diodes and come up with a laser that really has incredible specifications. Well, right before we got ready to do HoloTalk, in fact, within the last week, I'd say going back maybe 7 to 10 days, we finally got it. We built the entire system, and let me tell you something, folks, this is an incredible laser, and hopefully I'll have a link onto the site where you can go in and take a look at the laser and some of the things that we've done. And we're going to have to get the power supply and the driver size down a little bit and things. But we're basically going to make this into a self-contained laser where you would just sit on your holography table and have quite a bit of power to work with at a very affordable price. And we'll also have plans that you can get on how to build your own if you're handy with a soldering gun and a circuit board. There's a number of different components involved with it, but it's nothing like building your own computer or anything with the boards and things. And it's certainly within the realm of most hobbyists to be able to sit down and solder these things together. Very, very impressive work. Did a beautiful hologram as the test shot, and right now I'm working on setting up to do a nice 8x10, and if we see good results, which I am expecting to see, move up to 30 by 40 centimeter plates, which are rather large holograms. You're getting up into display size, where you can show in a gallery or, a lobby or whatever, But what's really nice, the fringe stability, this is what we were really trying to work out. We put a couple of the different laser pointers and a couple of the different diodes on, set up an interferometer and took a look at the fringes. And I'll tell you what, once you have these diodes hooked up to an interferometer, they're a little squirrely. They're actually a little squirrely. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to come up with a laser that would have extreme stability. And the way to do this actually was through the electronics. So this is the area that Sam shines in, and we tried a number of different things over the summer, and all of them failed. And I'm like here depressed, like beyond depression, because we'd pop the diode, or we'd never be able to get the fringes the way that we want them. And he'd, get the circuit board back, and we'd start working with different things and trying different chips. And, I'm not an electronics guy, so I'm not really capable of sitting here and telling you the electronic end of this, but we will have Sam come on and tell, the story behind this, which is a pretty fascinating story on how this was done. So I've had this running for about 10 days, 24 hours a day. I've got it hooked up to an interferometer on the table, and we're watching the fringes. And I want to tell you something. I have never seen fringes so tight, very high contrast fringes that are so absolutely still. It looks like a fringe locker is in place on the table. And I've never seen any fringes that look this still with a gas laser. And I've had some nice gas lasers here, like my Spectraphysics Stabilite 124B, which was a very good laser in its time, but and also some other regular tube lasers, a cylindrical housing with the brick power supplies. And you hook them up to an interferometer and you take a look at them, and the fringes are relatively stable, but you do notice drift. And it's what I call float. And float is, even though the fringes are still, there's some sort of float to them all the time with a gas laser. It just has this feeling, even though the eyes can't detect it, I think the mind is still picking it up, or it's more of a feeling that just sort of a light float to the fringes over time. But with this diode, these fringes are so still that a number of times I just go over and tap on the table just to make sure that things are working okay, because I've never seen fringes like this before. I mean, these things are really locked in tight, and it's, I think Sam designed some sort of a closed loop feedback or something so that the diode can monitor itself. The laser diode can monitor itself, and it makes very quick micro changes in current or voltage or something like that to make absolutely certain that it remains stable. And for whatever this is worth, I don't know what this means, but for whatever it's worth, I went over a little earlier and I was just watching the voltage output to the diode, and it was absolutely locked in down to 1,000th of a volt. It didn't even change. And I imagine the current is also locked in like that as well. So that's a very good indication of some very stable output. What's really interesting about all this is I wanted to get some sort of an idea of what the coherence length is. And if you're a new listener or a new person to holography, the coherence length is some indication of how deep the image can be in your hologram. If you exceed the coherence length of your laser, everything beyond that coherence length is not going to record high contrast fringes in your emulsion, your recording medium, your plates or your film, and it will not show up in the hologram. What you normally get using a helium neon laser is you just watch the image as it dims out rather quickly and then becomes black from that area back. I set up this interferometer and I stopped at 14 feet, which I believe works out to about 4.5 meters, but 14 feet was where I stopped on the coherence length, and I did not notice any change in the fringe contrast at all. I was using the Science and Mechanics photometer to take the probe into the light and dark areas of the fringes to compare those two readings and come up with a fringe contrast ratio. And it's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to spend any more time on this, because if a holographer can get 14 feet of coherence length minimum, this isn't maximum, this isn't the end of the line at all. It's the minimum amount of coherence length at 14 feet. What do you need any more? I mean, to get that type of coherence length with any traditional lab laser, you usually have to add a rather expensive Etalon into the optical path to get that type of fringe contrast at that distance. And as we continue to experiment, we're going to go into, we're actually getting 25 milliwatts of optical output power from this diode. That's minimum. And typical output is around 27, which is measured exactly to what the measurements were for the Power Technologies unit that I have here, the 35 milliwatt Power Technologies. And I think one of the holographers in Norway, Ronnie Anderson, also has the Power Technology unit, and he also records 27 milliwatts of optical output power from the 35 milliwatt module. So that's what we wanted to try and at least match. So we guarantee the 25 milliwatts output, but more than likely you're going to get 26.5 or 27 milliwatts after it passes through the optical system, the collimating optics that's inside of the housing that we have. So if everything goes as planned, this is Saturday night right now that I'm recording this right around midnight, and this will go up right around midnight on Sunday night. So within the next 24 hours, if I have an opportunity, I'm going to get that web page up for you and show you. It's going to be very raw. These are really just soldered circuit boards and things like that, but you'll be able to take a look at the new laser system, which is very exciting news for everyone in holography. I don't need to tell you again, after telling you so much last season, how much you would pay to go out and buy a brand new 25 milliwatt helium neon laser system. And this is going to give holographers an opportunity to move up in the power range, and going along with that, what happens is that you can do larger holograms, and display them and start doing some very serious holographic work that you would not have had the opportunity to do before because of such a large cash outlay to go into this power range. And for anyone who just wants to stay with the smaller holograms, like the 4x5s or so, or even the 8x10s, this translates into extremely quick exposure times. Our exposures on the 4x5s that we were working with was just a fraction of a second, so that helps as well. So keep tuned to the website for updates on this information, and hopefully when you log on Monday, the 13th, to hear this broadcast, I'll have a little link there where you can go and check out pictures of the laser, and I've got some shots of the beam, and even a shot of Sam Savage himself at one of the instruments that he used to measure the quality of the electronic output from the driver and power supply. And we're going to have this set up so that it can be run either AC or DC. You can either plug it in the wall and use it, or you can battery operated use it. So it's going to be a great little addition to the field of holography to get this up and running. And I know we've been working on this for a very, very long time, and it's good to finally have it here and working and everything worked out with it. It's a big load off of both of our shoulders to have been able to do this and reach our objectives of having a very high quality, very stable output that exceeds the best helium neon lasers out there in the power range for a fraction of the cost. So that's the news here in the lab. I can't think of anything offhand that's bigger news than that to follow up on, but a number of smaller things that I'll fill you in on as time goes on and the season goes on. And next week we will start with our first guest. And don't forget to log back on to enjoy next week's show. Each week there's a new show, and also, I would just like to tell you that if you have any questions about lasers or holography and you'd like to have that question answered on the air, on the HoloTalk page you will see a telephone number that you can call. When you call the telephone number, you will have instructions on leaving your question, and I will go into the voicemail box that I set up specifically for the holography questions and take your question out, and I will answer it on the air. So if you have any questions, please call in. It would be fun to hear yourself ask the question on the show. You don't have to leave your name or where you're calling from, although if you could leave just a first name, like say, hello, this is Pete from Minnesota. That's not going to give anyone too much information over the internet about Pete in Minnesota, so at least it will personalize your question a little bit without giving out too much information. And then go ahead and ask your question. I'll extract the questions from the voicemail, and I'll set them up into the HoloTalk shows. Well, that about wraps it up for this week. And once again, welcome back. Welcome to our new listeners. And I'm really looking forward to giving you another great season of HoloTalk shows. I'm just assuming that the other seasons were great as well. And I guess I'm just about going to wrap it up. So thank you for tuning in. The next show will go up around midnight on the 19th, which will be for the week of the 20th. And I certainly hope you come back and log on and enjoy our first guest of the season. And you will find out ahead of time who that guest is if you get on the mailing list. There's no advertising in the mailing list or anything like that. It's just a little notice that I send out on who's going to be on the show and what the topic's going to be. So thank you very much for tuning in. This is Frank DeFreitas, and I'll talk to you next week. Good night.